high regard for him, and they know that he is definitely a stalwart in the educational field, and I'm just glad to be a part of that situation.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, great. So, well, I guess let me just ask the first question I can. Kendall, can you please explain to the viewing audience what exactly is a charter school?
Yeah, I think a good question.
Yeah, it's a great question.
And it's actually an easy question.
Sure.
Charter schools are public schools. Charter schools are public schools too. Mm-hmm. We just happen to be a little bit different.
Okay.
So within the public school system, there are traditional public schools, and there's the schools that maybe you and I went to, right? Traditional. Mm-hmm. Then there are vocational technical schools, mm-hmm. and there are magnet schools. And in our area, in the Newcastle County area, there's Conrad Schools of Science and Cab Calloway. Both are magnet schools within the Red Clay School District. And then we have charter schools. And charter schools were brought about by parents and teachers that got together and they said, we can't do what we want to do. And we want to find a different way to do it. And what if we could have more flexibility to find what works for the kids within our school, but hold us more accountable? So if it's not working, shut us down. And that's the big difference between a charter school and a traditional school, is the level of accountability and the level of flexibility. So we have one school board. So it's a board that is, they are only responsible for the school, that one school, versus say in, I understand what you were saying about Delaware, so, because I'm from Maryland originally, yes. Mm-hmm. where our school districts are the county.
The counties, yes.
But here we have 19 school districts.
Yes.
And so the school district is responsible for the schools, all of the schools within their district, mm-hmm. versus a charter school board is responsible for that one school. Mm-hmm. So you're able to make decisions quicker, and you don't have to go through so much red tape. Mm-hmm. And again, if you're held accountable. So if a school is failing, a school should be shut down. If a school is not meeting the needs of its students, mm-hmm. it should be shut down.
Right.
That's the crux of charter schools. Okay. Higher flexibility for higher accountability.
Okay, great.
Well, yeah.
That makes sense.
Makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, let's go to another one. And you know, one of the things that's been really not concerned that I like to know, since we're talking about, I believe it's 5 charter schools coming into Wilmington 2014.
4.
4, and
then
the
fifth one is going to be in
Kent
County.
Okay,
yes.
Right. So based on the charter schools, now what is going to be the difference with these new charter schools that are coming into Wilmington?
Sure.
What would make parents want to send their children to the new charter schools that are coming? And I believe most of them will be, high school?
Well, there are 2 high schools and 2 elementary schools,
okay.
K-5. I'm really excited about all 4 schools there. Right. They are all different.
Yes.
There's First State Montessori Academy, it's K-5. There is La Academia Antonio Alonso, also K-5, and that is a Spanish immersion school with also having expeditionary learning, which is a project-based learning. And then there is the Delaware Met High School. And so the kids that go to Delaware Met will also be doing real life work. They'll do internships.
With doctors and lawyers and things of that nature.
Yeah, they have any number of projects and internships that they
right,
go to, and the kids get to research mm-hmm. what they are interested in. Mm-hmm. Like at the City Council Education Committee, we had Amy Cantamaglia, who's the school leader for the Delaware Met, came and presented, and she has been going up. There's a Met school, a similar school to the Delaware Met in Camden. It's based on the big picture model.
Is that Delaware or Jersey?
Jersey.
Okay.
Very good. But we do have one. We do have a big picture school in Camden, Delaware.
Okay.
Positive Outcomes Charter School. But one of the girls that she was talking about is interning with a veterinarian.
Yes.
And that because that interested her, and
That's
she went out
powerful.
and researched.
Yes.
And the kids get to see how what they're learning in school is actually applicable
Yes.
to their life.
Yes.
Yeah, I know so many of us that when we went to college, we thought, what are we going to do with this?
right.
We were in high school. What are we really going to do with this? The Delaware Met gives kids the ability to see what it will be like using their knowledge that they're learning in high school, how they can apply it in real world. And then the last is Delaware Design Lab High School. Also an incredible high school I'm really excited about. So if you ever seen a child that, they draw pretty pictures along the sides of their tests, right? Sometimes they may not be getting the information that's within the test, only because we haven't tapped that part of their brain, right? So they're incredible artists or incredible designer. They built Legos all day long. They learn with their hands. They use design thinking. That's the foundation to then learn all of the social studies, the math, the English, and the science. So 4 very distinct and different schools that we are bringing into our city. And one of those schools, l'Accademia Antonio Alonso, is going to be in the community education building, which is, I think it's going to be, that's at 12th and French.
12th and French. Yes.
First State Montessori Academy is also, they're all 4 are going to be in the city. They haven't finalized their actual address yet. 3 of the 4 haven't.
Just, I guess, from your perspective, why do you think, so many people say that we, as a city of Wilmington, we're saturated with charter schools. Why would you think we have such a heavy concentration of charter schools in Wilmington?
Because we started busing our kids outside of Wilmington and parents wanted to have their kids inside Wilmington. It's personal opinion, is where I think.
My answer would be similar as well.
And I don't know that it's a saturation necessarily as it is that parents were looking for more choices. That's what charter schools provide, is a choice and a different way of learning. And so parents chose to put their children in those schools.
And I've felt, and originally I remember when Dr. Robinson at Eastside Charter and Chuck Hughes at Thomas Edison, those early years of charters in Wilmington, it was a very, they were getting started. I felt they were community schools. True in the sense of community schools, really having an invested relationship. Both of them were close to the community centers. They work with the nonprofits, work with the families, and I felt that many of the ones that followed didn't have that same approach. They didn't come in as grounded, as community centered, and it sort of brought almost where we were just coming. We can have a charter because there's a need, and rather the need was justified or it was numerical. Who knew? But there was a need that the school felt it was addressing, and so many students became enrolled. And the one thing I felt was that the schools initially had a great true interest and value for our children, where I felt that many of the traditional public schools didn't. They could care less. I felt that after you got past that count date, they could care less about our children. And I felt that many of the charter schools, and I was a big proponent and supporter of charter schools early on, and I helped usher many children into those schools in the early years. And then I felt that there was a very dramatic shift where almost like our students they weren't as valued as they were at one time, and it almost became similar to the traditional public school. Many of the charter schools are very similar, and many are very similar problems that they almost initially felt that they were set up to address. They fell into the same rut, and they were having many of the same issues. And I felt that was unfair, especially at that point. I don't know if it's still where you had to stay there for that whole year, even if, and that was very unfortunate for many families whose needs I really felt weren't being met. And I'm trying to gain that sense and trust again with charter schools,
Right.
but because I felt that they have let many parents down in their mission, and they almost smoke and mirrors, where they knew there were some issues, and some children who had special needs, and the school knew they couldn't meet those needs, but yet they accepted that child into the school, and it was very unfortunate. And I can name numerous cases, and I felt that that's what added to this feeling of discontent and unsatisfaction with many charter schools.
So, a couple of things. One, we accept any child that comes through the lottery. We can't say you have a special need, we can't take you. We would never do that. We are a public school, so we must take them, and we must give them the best education that we can. Right? We follow their IEP. We do what we are required to do, and the best that we can do for the children. I believe that over time, I think things changed. You and I talked about that, but I think that things are better now. I believe that, and one of the things that we just gave an award for community ties. We believe that the community is important, and I know that Dr. Brown at Eastside Charter School is very committed to working within the community and for the community. I know that Dr. Perry at Prestige also very committed to working within the community. Principal L at Thomas Edison. But here's the thing. So when a school is really, really good, we can't control who comes. So if people start coming from outside of that community, we can't stop them. So, like I know Edison was doing well, so I know that they get people as far as Bear come in to the city because the parents chose to put their child in there. So, they're great community schools, but if people from outside of the community want to come, we don't say no. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So, but I believe that the leaders that we have in place now at our schools, Sally Maldonado at Kaumba Academy, Kaumba Academy has a great tie with Christina Cultural Arts Center, and they work with Salvation Army, and they work with the YMCA so they work with the community organizations that are close to them. They're doing great things within the community. Principal L has a chess club that when he brought that in, it really started helping lift their academics. Dr. Perry, I mean, he believes in the education that boys learn differently, and he also works with the community around him. Dr. Brown at Eastside has this group, a nonprofit group called Communities in Schools, that they come in and they create partnerships within community organizations to bring in and help provide supports for the kids. I think as with anything, sometimes things get stagnant and you need to have change. And I believe that all of the schools in our city have had changes recently that are making a difference. You know, and I promise to take you around and show you those differences too.
You know, I think Nnamdi touched on a very good point, talking about the situation with the charter schools and how they, have come on to do certain things, and whether they that term saturated. There's going to be a lot of charter schools in the city of Wilmington, and we know that the charter schools are public schools as well. But I also want to mention that we have other schools in the city of Wilmington.
Absolutely.
That I feel that those principals have done the best that they could do. For example, Bancroft, which is where I was for years, the principal that's there now. We have Stubbs, we have Palmer, we have Pulaski. Of course, we have the middle school at Bayard. Mm-hmm. And, I think, I want people to understand that when we're here, we're talking about educating our children.
Right.
And I think, I know Nnamdi feels very strongly about this. We want the best education for our children. So I don't want anyone to get the impression that we don't think that those schools are making an effort to do great things, because